You're listening to The Breakfast Show on Faith FM with Skafy and Lindsay. This is the second hour of our program. Lindsay is going to be talking about some artsy stuff. Is that right, Lindsay? Mm-hmm. And I'm going to be talking about the ultimate scape artist. Look, I am actually so impressed. I'm kind of obsessed with that story.
Yeah.
Of the Iranian female soccer team here in Australia and what happened. A lot of things happened overnight, and I'm going to share all the details here with you today, Lindsay.
All the juicy details.
Yes, all the juicy details. And look, there I can see the gospel in that story so beautifully.
Okay.
So we're going to be looking into that. Before we get into any... Though by the way, our interview today is going to be it's going to be a historical interview here on the show. It's going to be the interview with Dr. Simon Pizzizi. He's one of the Australia's leading experts in dementia and dementia care. And he's going to be, his interview has been aired, I believe, last year.
I think it said 2024.
2024, so 2 years ago. It's definitely worth to be played again. I would play it every year if we could. Okay. Because he explained so well what happens in the world, in the mind of someone that has dementia. And there's a lot of people that either live with dementia or live with someone with dementia, and it's very much worthwhile to listen to what Dr. Pizzizi has to say. But before we get into that, I would like to ask producer Chelsea to provide us a new quiz question.
All right, we have a fill in the blank.
Fill in the blank, okay?
Do not come any closer, God said. Take off your blank, for the place where you are standing is holy ground. Yes, but if you can give me the actual word, which Skafy has. Yes, good job, Lindsay. So if you guys can give me the word as well. Fill in the blank. Do not come any closer, God said. Take off your blank, for the place where you are standing is holy ground. It's from Exodus.
Lindsay, I think that you were choosing the wrong type of apparel here.
No, it belongs on the same part of the body.
Okay.
And they are much of a muchness. In that time, there was probably absolutely no difference. There probably was no different type.
Oh, okay.
So,
all right.
if you
I'm keen to see what was your first answer, though, because it looks very creative.
Was a generic term. This is just slightly more
specified.
But
I don't think they had a great variety in that time, you know?
All right, so you guys can text us too on 0491 064 669.
Yes, take off your sneakers.
Your gumboots.
All right, let's get into our story here today. Oh, by the way, do we have any texts that have come through our text line that we should read?
Yeah, we've got some... Oh, I don't know if there's any to read out, but we do have some correct answers coming through on the chat already, which is good.
Okay.
Yeah.
All righty. Oh, there you go. David said, hey, my wife makes for ladies little crochet coin purses to give to them. They are very beautiful. There you go, David. We're talking about if you or someone, in your life knows how to do beautiful art and then use them to bless other people. And these crochet coin purses, they sound absolutely amazing. Yeah, thank you very much. We got here, John got the right answer for the previous quiz question, so that was great. Good on you, John. And what else here? Oh, but apparently David's art here, he said, look, to make a convincing, savory vegan scramble is giving us some vegan tofu scramble recipe. And hey, David, you know what? Maybe that's your gift, my friend. Maybe you're a good cook there and you can do a vegan scramble like no one else. So if that's you, hospitality, it's definitely a very, very big gift from heaven. Now, Lindsay, tell me a little bit about your story today. What are we looking at?
Okay, so this story begins in a very rainy city. Now, what are some rainy cities that you know of?
London.
London,
Dublin,
yeah,
Edinburgh, everything all the cities that I'm trying to get from the UK.
That's the British Isles, yep.
Yeah. New Zealand rains a lot. Auckland, rains heaps.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that the Gold Coast here, it rains a fair bit as well.
Okay,
particularly a little bit, like Ballina area and
sure. Maybe during summertime, particularly.
Yeah, because there's a lot of rainforests there, so there's a lot of rain.
Okay.
I don't know. What other, maybe Easter Island?
Easter Island? Okay.
Yeah, like islands in general, They tend to be quite rainy.
Okay. I mean, I used to live in Melbourne for a bit, and that place is cold and
Oh.
dreary and rains.
It rains a
more often
lot
than
in
not,
Melbourne, hey?
and like most days, it's both sunny and rainy at different times of the day. I look, for those of you who live in Melbourne and love it, good for you. I don't know how you manage that, but I had a really terrible time in Melbourne. I didn't enjoy it. I'm a Queenslander. I'm solar powered. I need the sunshine. So the rain, it was not my cup of tea.
Yeah, apparently in Melbourne, it rains approximately 140 to 150 days per year.
That's like half the year.
That's pretty much half the year.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow. Not
It's a lot.
keen. That's certainly not as much as London, because London rains like 370 days a year.
Let me find out how much.
There's not even 370 days in a year. But
London actually experiences rain approximately 106 to 110 days per year. So Melbourne actually rains way more than London.
really?
Yeah.
Ah, wow. Okay. Well, I got that very wrong, didn't I?
Apparently so.
Okay, so this story comes from a rainy city that you didn't mention, which is Seattle on the west coast of the US.
Okay.
So it's very rainy there. I'm not exactly sure how many days. Can you find how many days for us it rains in Seattle?
I can, but can I tell you what are the world record holders
Sure,
of
tell
the
us.
rainiest city in terms of frequency?
Yeah, please do.
So number one is Buenaventura in Colombia.
Oh,
It rains roughly 258 days per year.
258. Wow. That's,
So pretty much every
two-thirds or
week,
more.
5 days out of a week,
oh, mate.
it's raining. You only have 2 days where there's no rain. Then the second one is Manizales in Colombia as well. Then you have Costa Rica, Indonesia, Timica, and Quito in Ecuador. All of these like raining over 240 days.
Okay,
per
very
year.
tropical. Very tropical places.
Yes. In Europe, it looks like it's Ireland. Carn Island is the wettest, 160 days. So
Okay.
similar to Melbourne. In the U.S., in Hawaii, Hilo is the rainiest city,
I
211
used to live in
days.
Hilo.
Really?
It rains a lot there.
211 days. In Africa, is in the Equatorial Guinea, one of the wettest, 244 days.
Wow.
So which one is Seattle? Let's see Seattle.
Seattle, Washington.
Okay.
What does it say there?
Okay, so number of days in rain in Seattle, in Washington, 150 to 165. It's about
Yeah,
a little
about
bit
the same as
above
Melbourne.
Melbourne.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So in Seattle, somebody decided that they wanted to take the rain that's so dreary and sad and depressing and find a way to brighten people's life with it. Take what they have and use it to make things better. And so they found a way using stencils and a specific type of spray to spray pictures onto the concrete in the city that would be invisible when it's dry, but would come to life when it was wet. So the stencil is like a super hydrophobic type of spray, which means that when it rains, all the concrete that turns a darker kind of grey colour around it will turn grey, but where the stencil has been sprayed, it looks like it's still dry. So it's that lighter concrete
That's
grey.
really cool.
Yeah.
Art. Yeah.
So there's all sorts of different stencils that these people have come up with. So this is an organization called Rainworks, which is a play on word for artworks in the rain, obviously. And they've come up with a type of spray that is nature friendly. It's not causing forever chemicals or anything like that. I've actually checked out their website as I was preparing for this story, and they have different stencils that people around the world can buy and the type of spray. So this is a whole movement that is happening across the world now where people are spraying these cute artworks or, nice messages. There's one here. I don't know if you know Sesame Street, the guy on the trash can. Who's the puppet in the trash can?
Yes, I know what you're talking about.
Grumpy. guy.
his
I've forgotten what his name is, but he's looking all happy. He's got an umbrella and it says, "What a beautiful rotten day," when it comes to life.
It's Oscar the Grouch.
Oscar the Grouch, that's right. So we've got Oscar the Grouch saying, "What a beautiful rotten day" in the rain with his umbrella. But there's other stencils with like flowers or love hearts or like nice quotes. You can get any kind of stencil, and you too can make your city into a place of positivity and brightness when it's a bit overcast and gloomy.
That is so nice. It's really about making the most out of a difficult circumstance.
Absolutely.
So look, if it's going to rain so much, that's the case in Seattle. Well, let's just make the world a little bit more beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, rain, I like a bit of rain, but like I said, I'm a Queenslander, I'm solar powered, I need my sunshine. I'm a sunflower, right? And so I like rain, but only in small doses. So if you're in a place that has rain in high doses, it's important to make the most of that. And so this might be something you want to try, or you can try doing things in a different way. You might want to pressure wash the sidewalk or something with a nice message so it's always visible. Maybe pressure wash it completely, make it nice and clean. Whatever you want to do. I've done some pressure washing recently in the rain. I'm like, if I'm going to get wet, I might as well just pressure wash entirely.
I'll tell you one thing. I don't remember the name of our listener that did this, but there is one of our listeners, I think it was during the COVID era, and they mowed their massive attic. They had like this massive lawn area in their farm, and they mowed it and they wrote like Faith FM 88.
Really?
Yeah, it was like one of the coolest thing. You can only see it like with a drone.
Did it get on
or
the
with
news
an
or
airplane? I don't know, but another producer, Shell, has the photos and she showed them to me. So that was a great way to talk about Faith FM. I think that it's in probably if there was a Google Earth satellite taking pictures of that day, it would certainly appear you could totally see it from a satellite.
That is so cool. That's awesome. Like,
if it is you, radio friend, let me know here. Tell me it's you and I'll give you the credit. It's just because I really don't remember the name of the person, but I remember the art. And that's the power of art.
Yeah.
Like, it sticks to your brain like nothing else.
And on that, God is an artist, right? He is our creator, and he makes some really cool artistic things. If you look at the different things that are out there in nature, the different animals, the different like microscopic, you zoom in on a bug's eye and it's really sparkly and pretty, whatever.
Yeah.
God is so creative and artistic, and he is our creator, and we are made in his image, and he's also created us to be creative like him, in a sense. And so God has placed that in each of our hearts to be creative in some way. Maybe it's through words like Skafy, maybe it's through visual arts, or maybe it's through acting, or maybe it's through cooking, being creative in the kitchen. Whatever it is, there is something that God has placed inside of you to be creative, to connect with him in that way, and to connect with others and to share the gospel.
Amazing. Love it.
You're listening to the Breakfast Show podcast on Faith FM. Positively different.
And let's get the answer to the quiz question. What was the item that God asked Moses to remove when standing in his presence? Producer Shells?
Yeah, so the item was I have sandals. Some
Yeah, I
people
wrote
said
sandals.
shoes.
What did you write, Lindsay?
I originally wrote shoes, and then she said
Shoes?
write the more specific thing, so I said sandals. So
Yeah, like, don't remove
I'm
your
pretty
shoes.
sure-
Like, they were not even wearing shoes.
Look, we're talking 3,500 years ago. How many different varieties of shoes did they have?
Yeah, but wouldn't they have
They're-
all
they're-
been
they're
sandals?
Yeah, exactly. So when I said shoes, it was basically the same thing as sandals for the context of the
I don't
time
know.
and the culture.
I think that you're probably imagining like some Nike shoes, some
No.
really shiny running sneakers.
No bedazzled Nikes.
Maybe some All Stars. Remove your All Stars from your shoes. You know the All Stars with the Converse with the zipper on the side.
No, none of that. Just a good old pair of sandals.
Okay, good old pair of leather sandals.
Yep.
Well, thanks, Producer Shells, for that one, and thanks for playing along. If you got the answer correctly, well done. And we are now going to be talking about the story that is really, like, the whole of Australia is looking. There's so many more new details that have emerged. Like, everybody's really on top of it. And, of course, I'm talking about the Iranians female soccer team. So yesterday, when we were talking about it, Lindsay, we saw that some of the ladies were seen making the international SOS hand sign.
Yeah.
Which is basically you open it and you close your hand with your thumb attached to the palm of your hand, like that.
Right. Yeah. Well, now I know that, just in case I ever need it.
If you ever need it. But what happened is, I'm going to tell what happened. Because they were, the big question yesterday was, are they going to get an asylum in Australia? Is the Australian government going to help them with that? But before we get into what happened, let's backtrack a little bit, because that saga, that story started well before
Of course.
these ladies came to Australia for their Asian Women's Cup game.
We're just seeing the final acts in a play
We're
that we
feeling
know
final
nothing
acts.
about before this moment.
But it actually started with some good Iranian Samaritans,
Oh.
Australian Iranians, who, when they heard that their women, their young ladies from their team are going to come to Australia, they realized, hey, maybe they will need some help. Maybe they want to escape from the oppression there. And one of the reasons being, in 2022, there was when the men's team was playing in one of the matches in one of these national international championships, they also refused to sing the national anthem.
Oh.
Because of that girl that I'll get her name here, the Masa Amini. Have you heard about her?
Nope.
She was the young lady in Iran who was completely beaten down and brutalized and ultimately killed by the Iranian regime because her hair was showing slightly on her hijab, or she refused to wear the hijab. And they thought that the appropriate punishment would be to torture her and to throw her to kill her.
Wow.
And because of that, in the 2022 FIFA World Cup in Qatar, the men's national team refused to sing the national anthem in solidarity to her. The regime responded by threatening and imprisoning these players' families, including torturing them. And so for the next match, they all sang the hymn. Because they realize we don't want our families to pay for that. So that was already in the backdrop. So with all of that, some Iranians here in Australia, they actually started to book rooms at the RACV Royal Pines Resort, which is close enough to where the ladies would be located, so that they could maybe see them in the lobby, or maybe have some quick breakfast chats in the same hotel as they were. And then they could see if they needed some kind of support.
Sure. Oh, wow.
So they wanted to be close to them.
So these girls didn't know that these people were going to be
they didn't know.
Planning to support them.
No.
Okay, so this is coming from Australia.
Coming from Australians, Iranians say, look, you know what, maybe these ladies will need some support, some help. We know how our government in Iran is, so we're gonna make sure that we're gonna be as close as we can. So if we have the opportunity to, we can help them. They were able to pass on to the girls a secret recorded voice message by lawyer Sarah Rafi. Sarah Rafi, she's a human rights lawyer. And she told them in this very, very quiet, it's just, because how these girls are being monitored 24/7. All their communications is being monitored, is being bugged. So they found a way to use like some low-tech solutions to pass on the message. And they had these lawyers saying to them, she explained that they were in Australian soil, that they have legal rights here in Australia. And if they choose to seek protection, there are lawyers, various Australian community organizations, and ordinary Australians ready to support them. So they managed to smuggle that voice message to them, which they played very quietly at the hotel. Plus, some Australian Iranian advocates, they were sending the soccer player direct messages on their Instagrams, asking, hey, do you need help? Do you want to come to Australia? And so on. They were not allowed to reply because they knew that they were being monitored, but they replied with the love heart emoji.
Love react, yeah.
Yes, they love heart emoji, they react, and which was basically showing them that they were reading and they were absorbing the information.
Yes, yeah.
Now, there's also a secret intermediary that was also a big player in that story. And this is a former Iranian women player who is now living in exile in Turkey. And she personally knew some of these athletes. She personally knew some of their families. and she was acting as a trusted go-between person. So she was relaying messages to the players and even securing verbal approval from their relatives in Iran that they supported the women fleeing. Because the women were wanting to flee, but what about their family? The family, they didn't know anything about it. Would they have their support? And this other former Iranian player, she was like acting as the in-between person. She was in Turkey, and she was saying, look, I spoke to your mom, spoke to your dad. They say, go for it.
Right.
They are supportive. They say you should totally go for it. So they had that confirmation.
Sure.
Then on Sunday night, when they were leaving after they lost to the Philippines for 2-0, the Iranian diaspora in Australia, they lined the footpath outside of the resort while they were flashing the SOS hand.
Yeah.
And inside of the bus window, and the Iranians made sure that they got one of the most tinted possible bus windows to prevent them from communicating to the external world.
Yeah.
But even through that, the Iranian soccer team, the ladies, they were able to communicate the international SOS signal back.
Yeah.
So they were doing this. So they're they thought that they were waving, but the Australians were teaching them, hey, this is the international, the SOS, if you need help.
Yeah.
And they also did some love hearts with their hands saying that they wanted to help. So then on Monday, and this is the part that I think it's the most incredible, because these ladies, when they were even walking in public, they were always looking down. They were always looking to the floor. They have been instructed by their guards not even to look around and talk to people. And when they were in their hotel, the Australian Federal Police went to their hotel, and they were fully uniformed. They saw the girls. The guards were sitting next to them, and the police officers asked one simple question, and they says, "Do you want to come with us?" This is all they asked. And after they asked that, the Iranian miners instantly lost all their authority, and they backed off without any confrontation or chaos.
Oh, really?
They're realizing there's nothing we can do here.
Wow.
We cannot fight against the Australian Federal Police. And when the Australian Federal Police just very friendly asked, hey, would you like to come with us? 5 of these ladies says, yes, we want to come.
Okay.
So they were taken to another location. The Home Affairs Minister, Tony Burke, he flew from Sydney to Brisbane. He arrived at around 9 p.m. in Brisbane. And then he was working until 1:30 in the morning to organize visas to the girls so that they could have immediate legal rights to stay in Australia.
Wow.
And this is one of the quotes that have come. There are forces of control that disappear once the Australian Federal Police show up and just say, do you want to come with us? And this is, to me, the part that reminds me of the gospel so much, because we are also taken captive by Satan in our lives. And then Jesus comes and he asks us, do you want to come with me?
Yeah.
And when we say yes, there's no forces of darkness. There's no forces in this world or outside of this world that are able to snatch us out of his hand.
That is so cool.
Isn't that an amazing story?
That is, lot cooler than I thought it would be.
The lady that is in Turkey, she says that they have been planning for this since the first game, and the women were very fearless, and that's something to be proud of. There has been no altercation, no chaos, just the power of the words, do you want to come with us? And I think that even more power than that is when Jesus comes and says, do you want to come with me? And when we say yes to that, there's no one that can hold you back.
So good.
Isn't it an amazing story?
Yeah.
So I'm really wishing these ladies absolutely all the best. I do not know if they would want to return to Iran once the situation there settles down, if they want to develop their lives here in Australia. But I am very sure that the Australian community will really open their arms and their hands. If they want to, if you know them and if they want to share their testimony here on Faith FM, let us know. Get them in touch. We would love to share their testimony here and there, hear their stories. But I'm really wishing that God will bless them. God will bless their stay here in Australia. And even, who knows, their family will be able to reunite with them so that they can live their lives freely with the freedom to worship according to their own consciences, not needing to worry about a repressive, oppressive regime that wants to take down from their liberties in all ways, shapes, or forms that they possibly can.
I was just going to say, they're saying that it's up to at least 7 members now.
7 members now. Yeah, it started with 5, then there's a couple of others. So now we go 7 ladies now got their
So good.
asylum visas. Praise God for that story.
You're listening to the Breakfast Show podcast on Faith FM. Positively different.
And we're going to have an interview with Dr. Simon Pizzitti. It's a pre-recorded interview, one of my favorite ones, talking about what happens in the mind of a person that suffers from dementia. And he's going to be exploring that topic with us in a moment. But before we get that, I just need to make a correction. I mentioned that the former soccer player, the former exilee in Turkey that was acting as an intermediary between the families in Iran and the girls here in Australia was Ara Rasuli, but it's incorrect information. So that person in Turkey is unnamed. We don't know who she is. Ara Rasuli, she has been the secretary of the Iranian Society of Queensland, and she is a lawyer and an advocate. She's a contributor to the Women's Life Freedom Movement. So she is an Australian-based lady that has been instrumental also in organizing and helping in supporting these ladies here in Australia. So with no further ado, thank you. I'm sorry for the misinformation. So here we go, our correction, our commitment to share with you the most accurate news so you can come out to your day with not only positive and uplifting thoughts, but positive and uplifting thoughts that are accurate
true.
as well.
Yeah.
Yes, and producer Shells now is going to be playing the interview, so I hope that you enjoyed that one. And I have here with me in the studio today Dr. Simon Pizzitti, who is a specialist in mental health, and particularly in the area of dementia. And he's going to be sharing with us a little bit about the world of dementia. Perhaps you know someone that has that condition. Perhaps you want to understand more. Perhaps you're a carer, or perhaps you yourself might be going through the challenges that this condition presents. So, Dr. Simon, thank you so much for coming to the studio, and welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much for having me and just giving me this opportunity to share some insights around dementia.
So let's start with the first question. What is exactly dementia? How does it affect us, and why is it so challenging?
Okay, so dementia, if you look at the actual definition, which in actual fact is important because sometimes people don't understand exactly what it is, which means that their attitudes and behaviors towards people with dementia are misplaced because of that misunderstanding. So the correct definition of dementia is that it's an umbrella term that is used to describe a series of brain conditions that result in cognitive impairment. Now, what's important to understand is that dementia is an umbrella term, so it's not the actual clinical diagnosis that causes anything. It just tells us that something is changing in the brain neurologically, something is changing in the brain structurally, something is changing in the brain chemically, and it's those changes, depending on the type of dementia, that result in the person not being able to function as they would if they didn't have those changes in their brain.
Okay, so dementia is an umbrella term. So I'm imagining here that we have things like Parkinson would be included into that, or Alzheimer's and other conditions. What are the conditions would fall into that category of dementia?
Okay, so in terms of the types of dementia, you've got Alzheimer's disease. And Alzheimer's is a little bit different because it progresses a little bit longer. It takes longer for the brain cells to die as a result of atrophy. But the thing that causes Alzheimer's is protein synthesis in the brain, which results in sort of clusters and tangles that form. And wherever those clusters and tangles form, you then have cells around the area dying off. So that's when you start to see, sometimes people forgetting things. They struggle to concentrate. They struggle to engage. They struggle sometimes in time to communicate. So that's just one type of dementia. And Alzheimer's is the most common type of dementia in actual fact. And I think in Australia, it's about 60% of people with dementia are likely to have Alzheimer's. And that's mainly also because it progresses slowly, and therefore people live a little bit longer. And therefore at any point in time that you do a study, a survey or whatever, there are going to be more people still alive with the condition. You've also got another one called Lewy body dementia. And it's to do again with protein synthesis. And in this case, there's a protein called alpha-synuclein. It forms 3D bulbs in the brain and hence Lewy bodies. And wherever those, 3D shapes form, then you have toxins being produced, and therefore the cells and the neurons around die. Then you've got, Parkinson's develops into late Parkinsonism, low dopamine production. The brain can actually absorb and use dopamine. So you've got coordination and balance as an issue. You've got vascular dementia, which is as a result of bleeding in the brain. So wherever there's a hemorrhagic activity, then the cells die, and wherever that region is, then this cellular function and the regional function of the brain is affected. You've also got, Korsakoff syndrome, which is to do with alcohol misuse. So for people that may have used alcohol and abused it as a substance over time, liver function changes and a number of other things change. But most importantly, thiamine or B1 levels drop, and therefore the body can't produce thiamine, it can't use thiamine, and therefore, neurons die as a result. So again, balance, coordination, memory, and ability to actually manage emotions.
And that's coming from
a challenge.
From the abuse of the intake of alcohol.
Absolutely.
Wow. And one thing that I wanted to explore, so when a patient is experiencing dementia, when there's something wrong with the brain, how is their life like? We often see them, doing things like, they forget how to brush their teeth, or they go to the toilet and they wet themselves, or they just appear that they start to forget about the basic things of life. What is exactly happening there, and why are they doing this? There's often some grumpiness and there's some forgetfulness that is associated with that. What's happening in the world of someone that is carrying a disease that falls into the umbrella of dementia?
Okay. So going back to the definition, the different issues that happen with dementia result in what we call cognitive impairment. And cognitive impairment, as the structural forms of, the brain are changing, what you will see is that people have disorientation. And there are three main areas that become affected. People get disorientation to time, disorientation to place, and disorientation to person. So disorientation to time is associated with the fact that the left side of our brain is responsible for time awareness. So if I say to you, I'll be back in 5 minutes, you know what 5 minutes is because your brain can actually articulate the context of time. But in people living with dementia, 2 minutes is 2 hours. So when you say to me, I'm going to get you some water, and you come back after 2 hours, I already start to think, A, you're not coming back. When you come back and you're smiling as if I should be pleased that you're coming back later, I'm thinking, well, Joseph, you should be apologizing for, making me wait all this time. But because my experience is real to me in terms of the context of time, you find that when we are looking after people living with dementia, because we don't understand that in most cases, we think the person is just angry because of dementia. But actually, no. Their context of time means that when they're waiting to go to the toilet, when they're waiting to go to the bathroom, when they're waiting for food, if they have breakfast in the morning at 8 o'clock, by the time they get to 10 o'clock, they think their last meal was yesterday. But if they can't explain
like 20 hours already.
Absolutely. So when they can't explain to you that they're hungry, you might see them walking and looking for the kitchen because they also have disorientation to place, which means they cannot remember geographical positioning of where their daily activities would happen. They can't remember where the toilet is. So if they're looking for the toilet for 5 minutes, it feels like 5 hours. And then disorientation to time connects with place, which means sometimes people will wake up in the morning thinking, where am I? I don't know where I am, even though they've lived in the same house, in the same room for the last 4 years. And therefore, sometimes they think, am I in a hotel? And therefore, if I'm in a hotel, I need a taxi to go back home. So when you see people always opening doors and trying to leave, again, that's disorientation to place, because maybe with time, they've moved back into a different time frame whereby, yes, they're 90 years old, but they actually believe they're 30 years old because they cannot remember anything from 40, 50, let alone being 90. And therefore, whatever they did when they were 30, wherever they lived when they were 30, that's what they're looking for. So if they can explain that to you, it would seem as if the person is always, going AWOL or leaving the house and, leaving the care community. And sometimes they might even be labeled as challenging, difficult, or exit seeking. But it's just understanding that when those three areas change, then the person's world becomes altered. So understanding how they see their world is the beginning of understanding dementia.
That's amazing. I think that sheds a lot of clarity and trying to understand that someone struggling with dementia is going through some really challenging, I guess, or really difficult situations in that, time is working for them in a different way. They're interpreting geolocations. It's much harder. A large chunk of their memory has just been erased from their memory, and they're back to decades and decades ago. So I think that helps us to sympathize and to empathize with, our loved ones when they have dementia. Say, hey, you know what? It's not that they're trying to be difficult. It's not that they're actually in a completely different setting altogether as far as their mind goes.
Absolutely.
Which makes me think about this. How can, if we have a loved one in our family that is starting to show symptoms of dementia, how can we best look after them? Is there any tips that you give us? Maybe we have an aging parent or a grandparent. How can we serve them? How can we love them?
Okay. So the first thing is not to stereotype any behaviors and just assume that it's because of dementia. Dementia is just an umbrella term that says something is changing in the brain. We need to understand, number one, from a time perspective, what's changed. And you might have a conversation with them, if they keep talking about going to pick up kids from school, it's telling you that they've gone back to a time when if they had kids, the kids are in primary school. So find out what age, would that have been and where did they live? Because chances are when they are in the afternoon stressed, it's because maybe they actually want to go and pick up the kids because that's what they expect, because that's what they did when they were 20. So finding out their time disorientation would be great. It's finding out where do they think they're at? Because if they don't recognize their bedroom, because again, if they think they're 30 and their bedroom has got pictures of them when they're 90, it means that that's
someone
their
else.
Grandparents. Yes, that's their grandparents' house. So when you then try to help them to brush their teeth, whose toothbrush is it? When you try to help them to put on the socks, the underpants and whatever, then they assume that those items belong to whoever lives in that home, and that's not them. So again, when you understand their age, then you might want to redecorate their environment to actually connect with their age. And it's also finding out simple things like, what's their vision like? We know that our eyes are not the ones that see, but it's actually the occipital lobe in our brain. Mm-hmm. So for most people with, but especially with Parkinson's as well as Lewy body and vascular dementia, they hallucinate, which means their interpretation of images changes. They can't tell the difference between an image and a real person. Uh-huh. So they might go into the bathroom, look in the mirror and thought that there's an old man or woman looking at them. So again, taking off some reflective surfaces would be great because it reduces anxiety. Wow. They might think there's a ghost in the house. It's also thinking about maybe the duvet covers. They might have a beautiful print of flowers, but the flowers would look like crabs or insects. So they don't want to sleep. They're coming out of the bedroom. They're screaming. They can't tell you why they're screaming. And yet that actually causes them a lot of distress. And the last thing is maybe think about, again, how do they connect with their environment? Because when people have their occipital lobe affected, they lose what we call light reflectance values. Mm-hmm. And this is where you have the ability to see color or color contrast. So if you are sitting in a dining room with a white tablecloth and a white plate and you've got mashed potatoes, for someone with dementia, they can't see that there's anything on the table. So when you're saying to them, eat your food, and they are getting angry because
they can't see anything.
Of course, you're saying to me, eat, and 2 minutes is 2 hours, and all this time you always give me something, and then you say, eat, but there's nothing to eat. So they get angry, they get upset, they get up, they're looking for food, and we think they're losing weight and they're now falling is because of dementia, when in actual fact, living with dementia is not hard. What's hard is when people around you don't understand the changes in the brain and how those change the way the person sees their world. So if we see how people see their world from a dementia perspective, we can actually help them to live well with the condition without any of those behaviors, because those behaviors have nothing to do with dementia, but everything to do with the fact that if I can't tell whether you're male or female, because the right side of my brain can't tell faces, then you come to help me thinking I'm a male, so someone prefers a male carer, but I think you're a woman, and I think I'm 20, so I'm thinking if my wife turns up, how am I going to explain a woman in my bedroom? So I will be resisting, and everyone says I'm being aggressive, but in actual fact, my perception actually triggers my emotional responses.
That is very interesting, very enlightening. Look, we have only 30 seconds left in this interview, Dr. Simon, but do you have any words of encouragement to give to someone that is caring for someone with dementia? What would be, in 20 seconds, a word of encouragement to them?
So the first thing is be compassionate, be loving, be caring, because that's what people living with dementia need. When their world is shrinking, the people closest to them become their only connection and their source of support. The other thing I would also suggest is this carer fatigue. So do look for help. And get some help. Reach out, whether you're in a church, whether, find out, is there a dementia network in your local area? Go and meet other carers so that you can find that network of emotional support and share ideas around some strategies that can help you to be where you are. And finally, if you want to go and do a little bit of study, go online and find some information that can help you to identify some environmental changes, some routine changes, sleep cycles, and so forth that can help so that you just don't rely on medication, which sometimes is thought would help dementia, but actually it doesn't, because the behavior has nothing to do with dementia. It's to do with
the environment
things we could change.
Dr. Simon Pezzizzi, Head of Dementia Care at Opal Healthcare. Thank you so much for your interview today, and we're looking forward to have you back on the show another time.
Most welcome. Thank you.
And if you did enjoy that interview, let us know here, 0491064669. This is also our text line to text with #caller to receive what, Lindsay?
To receive a coloring book called Colors of Inspiration. It's a coloring in book. It's got some beautiful biblical inspired quotes, and
How much do they have to pay us to get that
They
book?
have to pay a whole $0.
$0.
All they have to pay for is the price it costs to send a text, which is text.
Normally zero.
It's normally zero.
Yeah, it's free.
0491064669 #color, and we will get that coloring in book to you.
And we do have a text from Sky.
Oh, yes. We have a text from Sky. She says, "Thank you for the program today on dementia awareness. I've learned more today than working in the field for over 6 years." Wow.
Thank you very much, Sky. I know
good.
Dr. Pezzizzi is so knowledgeable. It was such an amazing thing to talk to him. And I've been to many of his presentations, and every time I leave, I say, wow, I have been educated here. I learned so much.
Thanks for being a part of the Faith FM family. Join our community on Facebook or get in touch at 1-800-FAITH-FM.